everyone, and welcome to the new episode of the HSG Student Podcast. My name is Sira, and together we are looking for exciting stories and personalities from the HSG. Studying in another country and at a foreign university for a semester. A big dream for many students. Not only do many HSG students leave the university for an exchange, but between 350 and 400 guest students from around 50 different nations also travel to St.Gallen every semester. They get a direct insight into campus life at the HSG and find out what it's like to study here. Now, I'm very excited to find out more about our guest today, who is an exchange student from Argentina. Dear Mora, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm glad to be here.
Like the previous guests, I would like to ask you briefly to introduce yourself in one word. It can be a word that has a special meaning for you, that says something about you, or that you associate with a story. What would this word be and why?
If I had to describe myself in one word, I would say positive. It's not something that I really thought of myself as, but recently, it was my birthday, and then everybody said something that they loved about me, and everybody highlighted how I'm such a positive person. So I think that's a very accurate word to describe me. And when I think about it, I do think that I always try to see the bright side of things, even in bad situations.
Oh, that's very good. And I think especially also in university, it can be tough sometimes. And then if you manage to have a positive mindset, that can actually help.
It has helped me to go through a lot.
I can imagine. And I've already mentioned it. You don't normally study in St.Gallen, but only for this semester. So your actual university is in Argentina. Can you tell us something about your university?
So I study in Universidad de San Andrés, which would be University of St. Andrews. And yeah, it's located in Argentina, specifically in Buenos Aires. I'm in my 7th semester because degrees in Argentina are usually 4-year long rather than 3. And yeah, I'm in the international relations major, but I chose to come to an exchange to St.Gallen.
Okay, that's very interesting. Do you also come from Buenos Aires or did you move there?
Argentina is very, very big, and so it's divided in provinces, and then you have Buenos Aires, the province, and then you have Buenos Aires, the city. So it's like I'm not from the capital city, and neither is my university. It's rather like in the outside bit of the capital city. Most universities are located in the center, but my university is rather outside, and it's actually really, really close to my house. So I didn't even have to move.
Oh, that's great. So you could just go to university without needing to move out.
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's amazing, very interesting. We will get back to your university later, but maybe can you tell us something about yourself? Maybe what do you like to do in your free time and when you're not busy studying?
Yeah, okay. So here in Switzerland, I've been really enjoying hiking on the weekend. I feel like that's very common here because there's not many things to do, especially on Sundays. So me and my friends usually choose like a destination and maybe we go for a weekend trip and we hike or we do some tourism there. And then if we're not doing that, we're just doing normal traveling because here in Europe, I feel like everything is so close. So it's just been super easy to get to travel around.
So which countries have you visited?
Since my exchange, so like being here, I've been to Spain, I've been to Portugal, been to France, Austria, Germany, Liechtenstein, and I think that's it.
Oh, wow, that's great. I mean, those are many countries.
Yeah.
Sounds like you had an interesting semester here.
Yeah.
So have you been to Europe and especially Switzerland before?
No, I've never. This is my first time in Switzerland and it's been amazing. I actually didn't know almost anything about Switzerland before I came. And then I thought that since I was coming to Switzerland, I'm not going to read anything about it and I'll just come here and let it surprise me. So I just came here without knowing like anything basically.
And what was your impression?
Well, there were a few things that I did know. I was very concerned about the trash situation because I read that you can get fined for not recycling and that was worrying me a lot. But yeah, no, other than that, I think that people are friendlier than the stereotype and that it's so clean. Like I know it's it's meant to be known for being clean, but it's even more surprising to get here and seeing how actually clean it is. Those things surprise me a lot.
That's great. I mean, I'm happy to hear those positive things about Switzerland. I mean, also here we have your positive mindset, maybe. Which helps. And what I think is interesting is that around 50% of the exchange students come from Europe and only a bit over 10% come from Latin America. I mean, when we're talking about the HSG. So how did you decide to go on exchange and why did you choose the HSG and Switzerland?
Okay, so basically, I always knew that I wanted to do an exchange because I've been always such a curious person regarding like other cultures and other countries and traveling. So when I had to choose like my home university, I factored in the fact that they offered an international program. So I always knew that I wanted to do an exchange. And then regarding how I chose HSG, I knew I wanted to learn a new language during my exchange because I felt like living in that country was like the easiest way to learn a new country. So I had to choose a university that was located in a country that spoke a language that I didn't speak and I would be interested in learning. So then my options were basically Switzerland, Germany, France, but I didn't really want to go to France. So it was just like Switzerland. And then HSG specifically, because I really liked the subjects that they offered. So like the courses. So yeah, that was also something that led me to choose Switzerland, HSG specifically.
Okay, interesting. And speaking of the language, that means you are learning German right now?
I am.
And how is that going?
Not great. So yeah, like it's such a difficult language. I knew it was going to be difficult, but I think that maybe I wasn't smart in the terms of like thinking, oh, I'm going to be in Switzerland, meaning I'm going to do German classes and then I go out of the classes and I get to use my German. No, people speak Swiss German here, which I didn't realize it would be so different. So it's been a challenge.
So maybe that means you need to come back in the future and
then
you can
yeah, I need to keep practicing.
Exactly. If we come back to the exchange in general, I'm curious, how does the exchange work when you're coming from another country to Switzerland? Did you also have to choose, for example, your courses before the start of the semester in the bidding process like we HSG students usually do?
Yeah, so that's a very long answer because it's like a very long process, at least it was for me, specifically because I'm already sort of in the end of my bachelor's, so I don't have many courses that I still need to take. So I didn't have many options already because I needed to do this, and then I have some that are like free where I can basically choose whatever I want, but those are only 2. Basically, like the first step would be to assess, okay, what courses do I need to take for my home university? And then based on that, then you have to go to like HSG and see what courses they're offering on the semester that you go. I had to go to like my degree director or like my academics coordinator back home and be like, okay, so HSG offers these courses. I need to do these courses. So if I were to do this during my exchange, would I get the credits back home for this? And then they have to decide yes or no. And they have to compare the programs and see if like they could give me that. That was like the first step, which was already so hard because a lot of the courses that I needed to take were offered during the semester that I wasn't coming. So then my options were already very limited. And then another problem that I encountered was like the ECTS, because the courses back in my university are like 7 to 8 ECTS each. And here in HSG, they're like 3 to 4. Maybe some of them get to 6. But that was already hard because then in order to get one course at my university, I had to do 2 at HSG. So that was already another challenge. And then basically choosing pretty much like 8 subjects, then talking to my academic coordinator and being like, these are the 8 subjects I would like to do. Could I get them approved? And then they would have to like approve them. And then it would come to like seeing, okay, will they be offered during the semester that I'm go? Okay, they were offered. But then it was the bidding. So it was so stressful, especially as an exchange student, because regular students normally have like preliminary rounds. We don't have that. We go straight into the 3 final ones.
Okay, but eventually you made it.
I managed to get all the courses I wanted. And I think that's because I did international relations. And like most students here are more like into the economics, business fields. So my courses weren't in such a high demand compared to those.
Yeah, that definitely is a factor. coming to your first weeks at the HSG, did you have a specific kick-off for exchange students or a kind of start week as HSG students who come in the first semester have?
So I arrived to my accommodation in St.Gallen the 2nd of September, and then we had a few days where like just doing basically nothing. And then a few days after, I think it was like around maybe the 4 of the 5, we had like a kickoff event where HSG gave us a welcoming and they gave us a lot of information about university and everything. And then you could choose to do a week-long German course, intensive course. So kind of like to introduce you to German. And then if you were planning on taking the German course throughout the semester, you would have to do that. And then during that week, we also had loads of buddy system events. Those were basically my first few days, just German and buddy system events.
What is this buddy system you mentioned?
The buddy system, it's like, I wouldn't know exactly how to define it, but it's like a group or like an organization that HSG has, that it's basically local students who sign up and basically they get paired up with an exchange student and they work kind of like their guide or like their mentor for like Switzerland and HSG in general. They organize like parties or like trips, events, and it's really nice. It's really fun and it works really well for like making friends, especially when you're just here and you don't know anyone.
That sounds very good, and I'm glad that you could also profit from this opportunity. Your semester at the HSG will already soon be over. So now that we're recording this podcast, it's December. That means you will have your exams and then you will go back to Argentina. Therefore, I would like to ask you, what are your general conclusions and your general experience?
My experience has been nothing but amazing. Like obviously some highs and some lows, but like overall, it's just been like incredible. I think the university is so beautiful. Like the building, the views, everything is just so organized as well. And I think they offer a lot of opportunities for students outside of just academics. And I think that's really, really good. I really enjoyed my classes. I think, again, there's a really wide range of courses that you can take. And I think that's really interesting, especially as an exchange student, because usually exchange students go for like maybe more niche courses that you can't really take back home. And I think HSG is like a great university if you're looking for that. Towards the academics, I would say that it is a very demanding university. Like I was already expecting that because I've read like what people that also came on exchange to this university have said. So I already knew that. And I think I'm used to that rhythm because my university back home is the same. But yeah, the rhythm is like fast and intense. So if you're used to that, then you should be fine. But the only problem that I did find regarding that was that obviously it's not the same being on exchange than being at home. So when I'm here, I want to like travel or I want to go out more or I have more activities in general. So I have less time to dedicate to university compared to the time I have at home. So it is harder to dedicate enough time for academics while being on exchange.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So was that one of the most difficult aspects for you, or what were difficulties you maybe faced?
Yeah, I would say that being on exchange, the fun part and balancing like being on exchange, the academics part was probably like the hardest thing that I have to deal with. So like, yeah, maybe sacrificing like a weekend that I could have gone to, I don't know, Barcelona because I had a presentation the next week. It sounds so bad if I say it like that. But like, obviously those are like things that when I'm home, I don't have to worry about where I'm going on the weekend because I know I'm not going anywhere.
I can imagine. I mean, but on the other hand, it's good if you are making experiences and you're collecting memories, because now that you're in Europe and you are very close to countries you normally are not that close to, you should use this opportunity, definitely.
I think that's like something that I did do. Yeah, I ended up dropping some courses because they were just too difficult. And then that gave me way more free time than I had before. I really used that time wisely.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I mean, you took quite a lot of courses, so that's fair. But what was your personal highlight, if you should mention one or two aspects or experiences you made throughout the semester?
I think the views in Switzerland are just out of this world, and just being able to get on a train on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning, and then being on a train and then arriving to an incredible mountain like with amazing views and lakes, and just that being such like a daily thing or like a normal thing was definitely a highlight. I don't know if that makes sense.
Of course, yeah. So the whole landscape as well.
Yeah, like not only the fact that the landscapes, but also the fact that it's such an easy and accessible thing. All I have to do is get on a train, hike an hour, maybe 2 hours, and then I'm in like this crazy place.
The public transport system you already mentioned, is there a difference to Argentina, I think?
Yes. Oh my God. I really don't want to go back home and have to deal with the public transport at home. To be fair, Switzerland is way, way smaller than Argentina. So it makes sense that it's way easier for Switzerland to have a better public transport. But the public transport in Switzerland is just out of this world. I can't believe that you have screens that tell you how long until the bus comes. Where I'm from, in Buenos Aires, the city has like a good system. They have undergrounds and we have trains and loads of buses. But as you get farther away from the city, it's just like a mess. Where I'm from, like my house, they only had like one bus and it came every 2 hours. So if you miss that bus, you can't go anywhere. And also we have loads of problems with it sometimes, like where they are late or they don't work. We had like maybe 8 months where the train was just like going so slow that people were just arriving late and they had to take like maybe an hour earlier train because they couldn't manage to get to work on time because the train was just working slowly. So being here in Switzerland has been just amazing in that sense.
I'm glad someone talks positively about the public transport because sometimes with all the delays, Swiss or German people tend to be a bit negative about it. But then compared to other countries, maybe we shouldn't worry too much. Now that we already compared, or you already compared Argentina and Switzerland when it comes to public transport, what were cultural differences you experienced? And was it a lot to adapt to when coming to Switzerland, or was it pretty similar?
I've had experiences living abroad before, so I was already kind of expecting cultural shock, so they didn't shock me as much when I was here. But I would say that one of the biggest differences here is regarding the driving. Here in Switzerland, if you want to cross the road, people will let you cross the road. That does not happen in Argentina. Technically, it should happen, but it just doesn't. So being here and like cars stopping to let you cross the road has been like a massive shock. It took me ages to like get used to the fact that they are going to stop and they're not going to run me over. Now I'm used to it, so now I'm scared of going back and then just being too used to it and just crossing the road like nothing.
When we are going on holidays, it often happens that we have the same problems with not being able to cross the roads because then in other countries it works differently. And I think living in a country for at least a semester already helps to get a different kind of view on certain things, and you get to know how to live in the Swiss way.
Something that it didn't shock me, but I do think it's something that people need to get used to when they're here, is like regarding the nightlife and like night events. That was so different, and like especially to me, events at night here usually start at like maybe 8, maybe 9-ish. People usually go, and obviously they've had dinner before. The thing is that in Argentina, I was used to having dinners late and then events starting even later. When I got here and then we started going out with my friends or maybe doing this or going to events and whatever, it was like I would have to have dinner super early, because if I didn't, then I wouldn't have time. And then again, the drinking and the partying is also very different compared to Argentina. Clubs, they open the doors at 11 and people usually go at like midnight or something. That is completely different than back home. We usually start the pre-drinks at like midnight, and then the pre-drinks go until like maybe 2 a.m. And then that's when you go to the club, and then you stay in the club until like maybe 7. So the partying it's very different.
You get the full experience.
Yeah.
Was it hard for you also to connect with HSG students from Switzerland, being an exchange student?
I would say, it's harder, because obviously I'm living in one of the university's housing. Most of my friends, I met them there, or we met throughout the buddy system events, which is mostly exchange people. So most of the friends I've made during my exchange semester are also exchange students, also because we share the timetables and the experiences, or like so we all just want to travel and do this, so we have the same interests as well. That has made it easier for me to bond with them. And regarding HSG students, I would say that it was harder, because the only time that I really like share time or space with them is during lectures, and it's not really easy to make friends in a lecture, so I would say that it's easier to just be friends with other exchange students. But I've made some friends, especially through the language conversation course. Yeah, I basically befriended a girl that works there, and then I met her friends, and so that's close as I've come to HSG students.
But it sounds nice, and it's certainly very interesting also to meet other exchange students from different countries.
Yeah.
So then you have people from all around the world. Now you're familiar with both the Swiss and Argentinian education system. It would be interesting to compare them. To what extent are they similar and where are differences?
I got into a little bit already about these questions when I was talking about my university. I think my university in particular is not very representative of the overall system in Argentina because again, it's very demanding and the timetables are different than most universities back home. Because, for example, usually in universities in Argentina, you get to choose like a time of the day where you're going to go to classes. For example, if I were to choose, I can choose like morning classes and then all my classes will be most in the morning, or I could choose the afternoon shift and then go in the afternoon or night shift. But in my university, well, I think it's the reason why this doesn't occur is that we don't really offer those three, but rather like we just have a very limited offer regarding timetables because it's one subject and there's usually one class of that, so you don't really get to choose. You just have to attend that course. And I think in that sense it's maybe similar to HSG at some point. Like I think HSG maybe does have like maybe 2 or 3 even of some courses, but not that wide range of courses as well. But yeah, again, in academics, I feel like it's the same. My university has way more class hours than HSG, and that's why our ECTS are so high.
That means you're in university from morning to evening, and do you really have classes, or what do you mean by class hours?
Not really. You just, for example, for each course, from 4 to 6 weekly hours, which I think is way higher than HSG because in most of my courses I had like maybe 2 weekly hours max or like 4 max. Not necessarily you're from morning to afternoon. You can have classes in the morning and classes in the afternoon, and maybe you have like breaks in between, but like you can't just have everything in the morning or everything in the afternoon really.
What would you say are the biggest differences when it comes to maybe also the educational system in general?
I don't think they're that different, honestly. Again, because I feel like my university is just very, very similar to HSG. The one difference that I will highlight is that my university is more, like, they do require attendance more than HSG, because most of my courses here during my exchange didn't really require attendance, and I feel like that could be a disadvantage in the sense that maybe it puts you off from going sometimes to class, because if you know you have to go because otherwise you won't pass, then you go. But when you know that the attendance is not really required, maybe some people tend to skip more classes. So I would say that that's a difference, but that's just with my university, because I think universities in Argentina overall don't really require attendance either. Regarding uni life in Argentina, it's very different here compared to HSG, because I think St.Gallen is like a university city. In Argentina, I don't think that's very common because most universities are just in the city. That was very, very different, actually. This is a city where there's just loads and loads of students and everything is kind of thought for students. Yeah, in Argentina, especially in Buenos Aires, that is not the case.
So that means there you have universities, but they don't really dominate the region.
Yeah, like maybe the area, like the 4 blocks around them, but you don't really get university students like St.Gallen.
What are the requirements to be able to get into university in Argentina?
Oh, well, again, it really depends on the university. We have a very good public university, but in order to get into, you have I think it's like an assessment tier, like the one you have at HSG, and a lot of people don't pass it, so those would probably be the requirements. For my university, we also have an exam that you have to take if your GPA was below 8 out of 10. If it was higher than 8 out of 10, you could just get into straight away.
Do you usually have online classes, or is it also similar to HSG, mostly on campus?
I don't think I've ever had an online class unless something specific happens where the teacher can't attend. Something that I do really like about my university is that all of our classes get recorded and posted later on our version of Canva. And I think HSG doesn't do that, which is fair. But I think that for us back home has been super, super useful, especially when you can't really attend a lesson, you really don't lose anything.
I would like to ask you, to what extent could the two countries we now compared, Argentina and Switzerland, potentially learn from each other? I think all have strengths and weaknesses, talking of the educational system or also in general. Do you have any ideas or thoughts on that?
Okay, so there are a lot of things that I like about Switzerland and a lot of things that I like about Argentina. Education-wise, like I said, I think recording classes is a very useful resource for students. And I also do think that I'm not a particular fan of requiring attendance for classes because, I don't know, it's just very off-putting sometimes. But I do think that for my university in particular, because we don't offer courses in English, many students can't really attend my university unless they speak Spanish. And obviously I understand why they don't do it, but I think, yeah, if we were able to offer more courses like in English, for example, then more students would be able to come. And about Switzerland in general, like I said, I love the public transport and I love how clean it is. And I think Argentina has a really big problem with trash on the street. I think it would be lovely if people stop doing that. And then what could Switzerland learn from Argentina? I mean, I do think maybe Argentinians are a bit more open than Swiss people in general. Not friendly, because Swiss people are friendly, just like warm or more open and outgoing. I think that it's a more outgoing culture, and I'm not saying that the Swiss people should be like that, but I do think that you can really see it, like notice a difference when you're in one country and when you're in another. Like it has happened to me that whenever I meet with my Argentinian friends, it just feels warm. Like I just feel like, I mean, I feel at home, but like obviously I feel at home because they're from home, but it's just like a warm sense of like, oh, like, you know, warm conversation, and then, you know, just so homey. I don't know.
I can totally agree on that. I already thought about these aspects before. So that's very interesting. And as I already mentioned, you are going to leave in a few weeks already. Do you have any plans before you leave, or is it mainly studying?
I do have to study because I have exams next week. So for the following week, all I'll be doing is studying. But I do have plans of traveling once I'm finished with my exams. One of my friends from Argentina is going to come. So we're going to spend Christmas in Switzerland, which is going to be crazy for me because Christmas for me has always been in summer. So it's going to be a very different Christmas. It already feels so Christmas around here because the Christmas markets and the glühwein and everything. So it's going to be very different. And then we'll just travel around Europe for a bit. And then she'll go home and I'll stay a bit more, traveling more.
Oh, wow.
So just a lot of traveling, basically.
What destinations are you planning to go to?
Okay, so we will start obviously here in Switzerland and we'll do some traveling around here. We'll go to Basel, Bern, St. Moritz maybe, and I'll show her around Zurich. And then we'll go to Berlin. Then we'll go to Amsterdam. Then we'll go to Brussels. Then she leaves and I'll go to Copenhagen. Then I go to Prague. Then I go to like a really tiny skiing town in the Czech Republic. And then I go to Vienna and then I'm done. And then I go home.
Oh, wow.
Very intense month, basically.
No, but I mean, being a European, I'm very jealous of this route.
I mean, you're going to be here forever, so you can easily do it.
Yeah, that is true. But it sounds very amazing.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It's like, I'm very sad about finishing my studies in HSG, but at the same time, I'm thinking about that, so it doesn't feel as sad. But if I wasn't doing anything, I'll probably be super, super sad about leaving because I really don't want to leave Switzerland.
I mean, I'm very happy to hear that. And also we have your positive attitude once again. But still, you can definitely come back in the future and maybe you will also revisit HSG. The last question I do have is from a HSG student's perspective. We also have the opportunity to go on an exchange program at a partner university in Argentina in general. And one of them is the university you go to. Do you have any tips for those who are interested?
I have a friend, he's Swiss, and he went on exchange to Argentina. And then I was talking to him about it, and it was super, super funny to hear his experience as an exchange student, because basically he didn't really think about the fact that the place you choose to live would be such an important factor. Like he didn't, because the thing in Argentina, especially in Buenos Aires, is that some parts of it are just not very nice, especially for a foreigner. And he didn't know that. He didn't pay attention to that. So the first apartment that he booked to live was in a not very nice area. And then obviously he went to Argentina and he realized how bad the area was. So he had to find like a new accommodation. So my first and most important tip would be probably to try and talk to somebody like a local, or if you don't have that possibility, to talk to somebody that has been to Argentina to kind of like see where the best areas are. If you're an exchange student, that's planning on going to Argentina, I would recommend Palermo because it's in the city. And even though if it's a bit far from my university, if you go to another one, it'd probably be really close. But it's like the best area for foreigners because it's a really nice area. It's very central. You have access to public transport and it has a great nightlife. And that's where usually exchange people stay at. But yeah, basically do your research regarding where you're going to stay. And then just be mindful that you are going to a country that is not as safe as Switzerland. So try and be street smart. Yeah, just enjoy. Try and not go with many judgments and stuff, and just try and be as open as you can because being on exchange is like an amazing experience. And I think whether you go to Argentina or anywhere else, you're just going to have like an amazing time.
That sounds amazing. So maybe if some of our listeners are interested, they know a little bit more about it. And I'm very curious to find out how it is in Argentina. And maybe one day I will be able to visit the country as well. So thank you very much, Mora, for sharing your journey with us today. We could really see your positive attitude. So I'm very happy about that. And from your experience at HSG to the vibrant culture also of Argentina, it's been a pleasure to explore your perspective. In general, exchange semesters like yours remind of the value of stepping out of comfort zones and also embracing the unknown. As you mentioned, they are not just about academics, they're about growth, discovery, and also building connections across borders. So once again, thank you very much for being here today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And also, of course, good luck with your exams and then have safe travels around Europe.
Thank you so much. You too.
Thank you. To our listeners, whether you're planning your own exchange semester or simply curious about studying abroad, maybe Mora's story has inspired you. Thank you for listening once again and see you next time on the HSG Student Podcast.